These are the darkest 11.5 minutes ever broadcast in Townsville. Stick around to the end to see why Cartoon Network almost never re-aired this episode, and why Speed Demon still gives longtime fans nightmares. Let's dive in. It begins like any other afternoon in Townsville. The dismissal bell clangs outside Pokey Oaks Kindergarten, and Buttercup grins. Race you home. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup hover above their latest victory with that post-battle glow kids get after crushing a math quiz. Buttercup shouts, "Last one home is a rotten egg," and all three shoot skyward. They lock hands, count down, and blast forward. 3 streaks that carve primary colored scars across the blue sky. The sequence is gorgeous. The animation ghost trails their bodies until we see 3 distinct after images, each lagging by microseconds like a flipbook on fast forward. Then a thunderclap, a concussive boom so loud it knocks laundry off clotheslines 2 neighborhoods over. Within 8 seconds, the girls barrel into their own front yard, giggling, hair singed at the tips from friction. They've done it, personal best, except something feels wrong, and the show lets us stew in that eerie quiet for an uncomfortable beat. Grass is brown, the lab windows are boarded, the mailbox is rusted shut, crammed with half a century of junk mail fossilized into a brick. Bubbles presses her ear to the front door, silence, and squeaks. "Professor," her echo is the only answer. They lift off again, expecting to spot the mayor's pokey car or the comforting flash of Ms. Bellum's red hair bustling across City Hall steps. What they find instead is a skyline mutilated beyond recognition, skyscrapers folded at 90-degree angles, shopping malls half swallowed by sinkholes, the famous "Welcome to Townsville" sign cracked in 2, its letters dangling like broken teeth. The sky is no longer cheerful cyan, it's the bruised maroon of a never-ending sunset, a permanent hush of dust eclipsing the sun. Because this is still a kid's cartoon, the show resists gore, yet it doubles down on suggestion. Shopping carts overturned, playground swings clacking violently though no wind blows, and everywhere that deep ochre dust clinging to surfaces as if the city itself is rusting from despair. Blossom, always the rational leader, tries to piece together the mystery. Buttercup's fists tighten, itching for a tangible monster to punch. Bubbles floats lower, scanning for any sign of life. Then, a swirling column of crimson smoke blossoms in midair, and a falsetto laugh slices through the ruins. Him rises, slowly, ceremonially, like a genie freed from a bottle someone had the good sense to bury eons ago. This isn't the playful, high-pitched trickster who occasionally steals Christmas. The animators redraw him with angular shoulders, talons sharpened, eyes dilated to pinpoints. The color palette around him shifts cooler too, so his crimson skin pulses with unnatural heat. He claps. The sound resembled 2 massive mandibles snapping, and greets them. "Little lost girls, you left your toys unattended and the naughty children burned the house down." Him doesn't attack. He doesn't need to. Instead, he monologues the single most unsettling villain speech in the show's history. The second the girls vanished, public faith evaporated. Criminals realized the perpetual guardians were gone, and chaos metastasized. Riots toppled the police precinct in a day. Food shipments stopped. Electricity gridlocked. With no external savior to rally behind, neighbors turned on neighbors. Him claims he merely fanned the embers of hopelessness. Whether that's true hardly matters. The girls are forced to accept that their own reckless dash created this timeline. We witness survivors, shells of characters we love, shuffling under slave yokes, branded with Him's pitchfork logo. The mayor shuffles past on a cane, his beard trailing and cracked monocle barely clinging to one eye. Miss Bellum, streaks of silver threading her tangled red hair, drags a dented briefcase and avoids their gaze. Even the Professor Utonium steps from the shadows, coat in tatters, whispering their names with equal parts awe and heartbreak. All the while, the girls float above the grim tableau, their silhouettes casting angelic halos that do nothing to lift civilian gazes. One child points up, recognizes them, and hurls a chunk of concrete in rage. Another citizen joins, then a dozen. A hail of debris pelts the girls, each rock embedded with decades of abandonment. "Where were you?" a grandmother screams. That line might be the most adult piece of dialogue ever aired before Cartoon Network's 8 p.m. watershed. Blossom tries diplomacy. "We can fix this. We didn't know." Him cackles. "Ignorance doesn't unburn a city." Traditional fights rarely last more than 40 seconds in a Powerpuff episode. Here, the confrontation is cerebral and drawn out. Him meets their charge with wicked glee, batting away their blows as though they were paper airplanes. Buttercup finally lands a punch, only for him to catch her fist mid-air, twisting her toward her sisters with a hiss. He reforms behind her, whispering, "Violence solves so much for you," until it didn't. Him flashes images of the decades they missed. Familiar faces aging, then fading under his iron rule, before him turned his own minions against him. Even old foes have long since fallen silent, their lairs swallowed by rust and dust. Entire classrooms of children forced into scrap metal militias. The sequence is rushed and overlapping, frames occasionally repeating in stutter loops, like watching a nightmare through an old Viewmaster. The girls split. Bubbles breaks first, sobbing as him projects kids crying into empty night skies, chanting her name. Buttercup bats tears aside, hurling sewage pipes and toppled lampposts at the demon, each one phasing through him, clanging uselessly against collapsed stone. Blossom remains outwardly stoic, but her internal monologue, voiced in a shaken, trembly hush, admits she's calculating whether they even deserve to fix this. "We abandoned them. We abandoned everyone." Blossom regroups and outlines a plan. They need to rally survivors, remind them who they used to be, pivot despair into a last stand of optimism. Desperate to help, Blossom pleads directly with the crowd. "We can fix this." But the words ignite only bitter memories. They clear rubble and lift toppled beams. Yet each good deed is met with hollow, accusing stares. They build a makeshift stage in Townsville Square, where they once accepted keys to the city and plead for everyone's help to rebuild daylight. For exactly 51 seconds, you, the viewer, might believe it's working. A teenager unwraps a filthy scarf to reveal the Powerpuff insignia painted on her cheek from a childhood parade, and she smiles for the first time in decades. Professor Utonium steps onto the stage and whispers, "My girls," but him floats overhead like a malignant balloon and whispers thoughts into the mob. The camera dolly zooms on faces as hope curdles into rage. Survivors recall the funerals they dug barefoot in cracked earth. They remember ration lines that stretched until sunrise. They lunge forward, a tide of fists and broken bottles. This moment is where the episode stops feeling like superhero fiction and becomes full-on existential horror. Your city will devour you if hope dies. And sometimes hope dies simply because its idols walk away for 7 seconds of thrill. Bubbles collapses to her knees, covering her ears. Buttercup hovers protectively but hesitates. How do you punch grief? Blossom, her leader persona melted into raw regret, screams, "Stop! This isn't you!" The mob chants him's name louder. Realizing physical or rhetorical battles are futile, Blossom whispers a final gambit. She links hands with her sisters. The roar of the crowd dims beneath a rising wind as the girls ascend, eyes glowing white. Even him pauses, curious. At 10,000 feet, they pivot, face west, and accelerate. Not toward safety, but toward the sun's descending arc, hoping that by blasting even faster in the opposite direction, they can force time to snap back to the moment they left. The animation here pays tribute to 90s anime spectacle. Backgrounds smear into neon rings, the color wheel inverts, thunder cracks in reverse audio. Buttercup grits her teeth so hard sparks fly. Bubbles pets Octi, promising the toy they'll return. Blossom calls cadence like a drummer in a drowning submarine. Faster, 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 until the screen whites out. Suddenly we're back at minute 0. Monster dust still settling, sky bright turquoise, mailbox pristine. The girls touch down with the gentlest puff of air, hearts pounding, cheeks tear-streaked. Buttercup suggests they walk. Blossom agrees. Bubbles holds their hands so tight her knuckles blanch. Professor Utonium is home, frying eggs, humming. He greets them, they smile, and then quietly decide to never ever mention what they saw. The professor turns from the stove, cheerful and oblivious. "Girls, you're home. How was school?" He pours milk. They gulp it down like refugees tasting water. The episode closes on a final devastating shot. Somewhere, a distant, branching timeline crackles out of focus. Townsville remains a wasteland, hymn's laughter echoing across a dead horizon. That version of humanity still broken. The moral is ambiguous. You can correct a mistake in your timeline, but actions spawn realities you can't simply delete. For a children's cartoon, that's nearly cosmic horror. Although the Powerpuff Girls often flirted with menace, Speed Demon shifts tone so drastically that it effectively punches a hole through the series' tonal ceiling. It confronts preschool audiences with societal collapse, not from invasion but abandonment, trauma that can't be undone for everyone, only sidestep, heroic accountability. The girl's biggest sin isn't malice but reckless thrill-seeking, a deeply human flaw. Him as an allegory for despair so infectious it weaponizes community against itself. When the episode premiered, Cartoon Network's switchboards lit up. Parents complained that their 5-year-olds had nightmares about horned devils and post-apocalyptic skeleton skylines. For several years, Speed Demon aired exclusively in late-night rotation, if at all. Even modern streaming bundles sometimes bury it inside season folders rather than spotlight it on the main page. Animation forums dissect it like a lost Twilight Zone short. How did this get past standards and practices? Answer: Gendy Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken had built enough goodwill that executives trusted their darker experiment. But after broadcast, internal memos allegedly urged the team to dial back existential dread going forward. Rewatch Speed Demon as an adult, and you'll notice subtleties impossible to process at age 8. The mayor's missing eye mirroring civic myopia, him's refusal to throw a single punch because the idea of him already dismantled society, the irony that the girls, built to protect innocence, inadvertently create a world where innocence is burned as fuel. Contemporary fandom debates whether the episode carries a conservative stay-in-your-lane moral or a progressive indictment of hero worship. My take: it's a cautionary tale about hubris and neglect, power without responsibility, that ancient chestnut, packaged in 9 minutes of candy-colored dystopia. So, what do you think? Does the existence of a doomed timeline negate the girl's redemption? Or is a single saved present worth infinite tragic hypotheticals? Drop your multiverse ethics below, and if Speed Demon rattled you, wait until you feel the existential dread of Courage the Cowardly Dog's perfect. We'll peel back that nightmare frame by frame in the next video, so hit subscribe and ring the bell to be first through the portal. Stay hopeful, stay humble, and remember, sometimes walking home at a normal speed is the bravest thing a superhero can do.